Hey everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. We have a real special hangout today with a good friend of mine and somebody who many of you probably already know, the absolutely incredible drummer and multi-instrumentalist. Yes, yes, you heard me right, multi-instrumentalist. So many folks don't know it, but it's true. Uh, Marco Minnemann. Marco, thank you so much for taking the time out to your, I know you're a busy guy and appreciate you taking the time out to do this. How are things going, bud?
All good, all good. We're here in the lockdown, aren't we? Like you and I, we are basically in different countries. We're making music, we're having fun. We have time, to do these wonderful things and chat and explore new grounds musically and also personally. So there's always something good coming out of it. But it is a crazy time. It is a crazy time.
It's a crazy surreal time in a way, right? Like I mean, it feels kind of strange, but I want to just go to the chat. I want to make sure that we're coming through loud and clear. Anybody that's here, can you just sort of tell us whether you're hearing us okay, whether you can see us okay, if the audio is good? I always like to check that just to make sure we don't talk for half an hour and nobody heard a word we said, right? So if, if anybody can let us know if it's coming through, it all looks like it's working and coming through okay. There's always a bit of a delay in the chat though too, but. Yeah, no, so that's good. So how have you been holding up through all of this?
Um,
How have things been?
Well, things are good. The thing is, it was a bit of a scary time with the Aristocrats tour because we just have our recent album that we're kind of promoting now touring, and so which is called You Know What. And so we were able to do the whole North American leg. We did actually the United States, we did Canada, we did Mexico, and then we had two European legs, and then also England. Well, meanwhile the UK, right? Which is and so basically, we were able to do almost the entire tour except for two shows in Italy. So I have no idea how we made it, but we did it. So that was cool. That was cool. So it made obviously a lot of people happy. It made us happy. But then the weird thing started. So basically, what really happened was then we were planning on just right now doing Asia, Southeast Asia, and then all of the Latin Americas. And so it's kind of being postponed, obviously. We're coming to your countries if people from there are watching it, but we just don't know when yet.
Yeah.
But we're having high hopes that by the end of this year or early next year that we might be out there. So, but yeah, so that's the news. And, I'm creating music as usual, right? I
You
love
never
it.
stop creating music though. That's the
I can't do anything else, right?
right on. It was funny though because you guys actually ended up kind of in the epicenter of this whole virus thing at the end of your tour too, right?
It was crazy. I mean, we were exactly, we were just doing our part in Spain, then in Portugal, then we came back to Spain and went to Italy. And it was right where the whole thing started, pretty much, to get like really intense. And also, by that time, I'm fairly sure there was like, a big sort of gray area and kind of numbers that were not known yet, a quantity, a certain one. So I guess I mean, can you imagine? We were playing in front of thousands, 10 thousands of people, basically, throughout that these times in Spain and Italy. And then, after that, you know how we take pictures with people, you hug and you kind of, shake hands. By that time, there was no big concern about that yet. And then all of a sudden, everything, one by one got locked down. So I don't even know. And I remember, like, our crew and our band, we got partially sick. We thought it was maybe a flu or a cold. So, and that was just when we were in Milano, like in Milan, in Italy. That was when some of us already got sick with like some weird kind of, symptoms thing that today could be actually are defined as those symptoms. So I don't want to kind of, do like a blindfold guessing game here, but maybe we had it even and we don't know it anymore. It was like 2 months
Well,
ago now. So
I was going to say it's probably a decent chance that you were exposed to it. And I even thought about NAM this year. About NAM in the middle of January, lots of people from China coming in right at the time that was the epicenter to it, right? So I think there's been, who knows, but there's probably been a lot of people exposed that just don't know it, right? It's almost a certainty, almost a certainty.
it's almost a certainty. And I think recently, like with new numbers, that sort of came in. I mean, I'm not the expert there, but there was like, this testing that randomly kind of did on 3,000 people and found out that 14% or some number, I don't want to put my hand on it right now, but my finger on it, but I think something like that, they were tested and had actually antibodies. So that means that they already have, like, statistically, sort of, they're kind of certain, that probably thousands of more numbers, 10,000s, 100,000s of more people already had it, which would actually lower, obviously, the percentage of, risk factors or recovery, versus death rates, which is a glimpse of hope. It's obviously still bad, because I know people firsthand who work actually at the hospitals and take care of these patients. And it is a tricky situation, because they said, like, look, it's it starts like the flu, and all of a sudden they see it in some people getting worsened, and then they just pass away or something. They said, like, the most horrible things is like that it's an unknown quantity in the body that people don't know how to deal with it. They said, like, it's like fighting a war without arms, and so that is kind of, the thing, running against time. So I really personally hope, that somehow the vaccine and also, like, medicine, will be released as soon as possible when they have it, not to ponder too long about it. I know it's necessary. It's necessary.
Yeah.
It's getting weird, because I see people, they don't really, most of them, they get tired of it. We had the chat before we went live, but people are kind of, they're going out meanwhile. I'm looking right now here on the lake, and right now in front of me while we talk, there's somebody surfing, drawing behind a boat. There's people doing boat races together, like next to each other. There's people fishing. And you see, like, yeah, it's kind of the opposite of social distancing when I see it happening. It's like they're really close, It's like, and I saw that people are here hiking in the mountains. They park their cars everywhere. So you see, like, people are going, like, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. And it's kind of the wrong thing to do, I really believe, because the virus doesn't care. It's not like, that you're demonstrating again, like, some certain politics or whatever it is. No, that's a whole fucking different thing.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a tough call, right? I mean, it is to the point where people, it's getting mentally taxing. But yeah, it's hopefully things work out sooner than later, so we can get some semblance of normality back, right?
Yeah,
And
I know.
back to doing what we do. But let's talk about music. Let's be happier. Let's be happier.
Absolutely.
So you were kind enough to send me yesterday a link to the new McStine Minnemann album.
Yeah,
What's the title of the album again?
McStine and Minnemann.
Ah, there you go. Okay. And I gave that a really good back-to-back listen this morning, and I gotta say, wow, I'm gonna label it as progressive pop. Does that make sense?
That is actually not bad. That is not bad. Progressive pop, progressive pop. It also has, like, some slight, waveish punk animals in it, because it has a lot of energy. But there are hooks. There is, like, some experimental stuff in it. But I think what you're really right about is, like, it's a very focused, precise album, and we're very happy the way it came out. The songs, we kept them short and precise, like almost like a vinyl format kind of thing from the good olden days, like, where you would listen to an album from the Knack or something like that, in the late 70s or something, like, so 10 songs and everything, like, really, focused and with energy. That was pretty much the mission. It actually just came out of us that way. So, but yeah.
That's awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed the album. I mean, I enjoy everything you do. I know you sent me stuff in the past before it comes out and stuff, and I always love putting an ear to it. It's always amazing. But this was just a really concise listen. I love the pop elements. I love the hooks, and on top of all of your other great, Zappa-esque influences in there, and that you always have. And I love that stuff, man. And so let me ask you this though. Tell us about your partner in crime on that. So it's Randy McStine you did the album with, right?
Yes, it's Randy McStine, and I met Randy about 1.5 years ago. We played actually a festival in close to New York. I think it was called Prog Stock, and it was great. I gotta say, it was really kind of an experience. I think I played with Dave Kersner from the band called In Continuum, and so we kind of did like an all-star formation kind of band thing, or like a lot of cool players involved, and we did a few shows, and we had a blast. And one of the guitar players and singers was Randy. I met him there for the first time, And I could kind of, realize pretty much instantly when we started playing together. It was a little bit like, what I had with Guthrie Govan, my guitar, our guitar player from the Aristocrats, right? So with Guthrie, we worked together for a long time, but we had the same thing. The chemistry was great. As soon as we started playing, it locked. And we had a mutual musical understanding. And it was the same thing with Randy. I thought like when he kind of started playing, like, picking parts and odd meters and stuff, we had like, a complete common denominator. So it was really, really, really fantastic to see that. I was like, oh, cool. This is badass. So, and then the next thing was I invited him over to sing and play on a few songs from my latest solo album, which is called My Sister, and he sounded great on it. And then he invited me out to play something for his one of his solo albums. And then the more we started all of a sudden kind of collaborating, the more we found, hey man, we should maybe do something together. And I think Randy was the first one who really kind of spoke that out loud. But I already kind of, he doesn't even know that of that thought. But it's actually really true. I thought about this already, as well. Thought like, man, we should maybe do something. But Randy was really the first one to approach me then and go like, hey, I've decided it might be a good idea that we maybe should kind of put these songs together and kind of, do an album. So it was basically the same concept what I would do with the Aristocrats. We wrote actually separately. But then also with Randy, since it's only the two of us, we added things to our songs. So we were kind of completely generous, with having also like, each other's not producing also our own songs, but also producing each other's songs, kind of completely cross-pollinate. And I think, the result turned out, really well. It's very, very good chemistry. The work was always fun on it. And all of a sudden, faster than we thought, we had a complete album together. We're in fact already working on the next one.
Was I mistaken in reading over the liner notes that it was recorded? The recording was still going on in March.
The recordings were probably still going on in March. It's true. Yeah, we just literally.
I thought I saw that. That's amazing that it's mixed, mastered, and just about ready to go, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
that's awesome. And actually, for anybody watching, check in the description below. I have all your links up. I have Marco's YouTube channel, McStine Minnemann YouTube channel. The places where the album's available for pre-order, which opened May 1st, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So that's at Bandcamp.
Yes.
And then Diggers, what's the other website with the vinyl?
Diggers Factory. They're actually
Diggers
based in Europe and in France, and they already kind of did last year. They did a vinyl production for the My Sister album of mine, and it came out great, fantastic quality. Um, and there's only 100 made. Actually, literally, we have 100 copies. So half of them are already gone. So if people, want to pick up a vinyl copy of that album, go to Diggers Factory. There should be a link somewhere.
Yeah, the link is below, so anybody who's interested, but definitely go give this album a listen. I was just enjoying it so much this morning. I wish I had another, time to get through it again this morning, but unfortunately I didn't. But I'm definitely going to be putting an ear to that a lot more. It was just a great, enjoyable listen. You guys, and the production quality is fabulous, as it always is with your stuff. I always love hearing. I know we've always sent mixes back and forth
Yeah.
to each other, and I always just love hearing your production, man. There's always so many just really cool elements. And the thing I said in the beginning that a lot of folks don't realize. I mean, you're known so much for your just mind-blowing drumming. And I think what happens is you get pigeonholed as you're a drummer and that's it.
Yeah.
And Marco is a fabulous multi-instrumentalist. He's an amazing guitar player. He's an amazing composer, vocalist, and you name it. So I think you deserve a lot more credit for that than maybe is given because you're a drummer.
Yeah, thank you very much for saying that. Yeah, some of my followers know me as a multi-instrumentalist and composer, but yeah, once you kind of, how do you say it? Once you hang your ass outside the window as a drummer and you see yourself kind of always playing, so many people come to the Aristocrats, and I'm shown behind the drum set, yeah, then I actually automatically also become a drummer. But I tell you what, I'm not, I'm not disappointed by that. It's great, I mean, it's, that's.
I was gonna say, I mean, let's call a spade here. It's your own fault,
Yeah,
right? If you weren't so damn good on drums, then maybe people would pay attention to the other stuff.
thank you for saying that. But yeah, but that's the thing. Obviously, for life, I'm mostly known as a drummer, and from the stuff I do, drums are the instrument that I'm the most virtuous at. Then guitar, than keyboards. But drums is the thing, where you can just put me on stage. I just have fun and speak my language.
Oh
Guitar,
yeah.
I'm pretty good at in the studio and can kind of, work out some bits, and then I can kind of play them, and then have to train them also how to play them live or something like that. But guitar is more like an instrument where I can cheat very well.
Nah. Me too, actually. That's how I do it too. But well, the funny thing is, I know we've talked about this many times, and it's a story I love to tell.
Yeah.
Marco's played on, I guess, maybe six of my albums,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah, Jake's a
right?
great guitar player. I love
Um,
your playing,
oh,
man. Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
But I always laugh at the one time, and it's probably going back maybe 4 or 5 years now, but I sent you a track and I was pretty excited about the track, and it was a difficult track. There's lots of time changes, and at this point I was the only person on this planet that had ever heard this track because I literally just finished writing it. So I emailed Marco and I said, hey man, do you mind doing a drum track for me? And you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm at home. Send it over. Next couple days, I'll see what I can do. I was like, oh, that's great. So I send him the tracks, and we both work in Cubase with Steinberg, which actually we're going to talk a little bit about Steinberg in a few minutes. Cool thing going on with them for Marco. Um,
Yeah.
and I send the song over, and I think it was about 18 or 20 minutes later, a rough mix of the finished drum track comes back to me. And I stared at my email for a minute, and I downloaded this and I listened to it, and I was going like, what just happened here? How in the world you had to download it, you had to listen to it at least once, you had to load it into Cubase, you had to play it, and then you had to export and send it back to me. And I'm like, I don't know if this is humanly possible. What just so I always got a kick out of that story. And anyways, I like to tell it because I think it really pays testament to just how incredible you are on your instrument, and it blows my mind. I can't say enough good things.
Thank you, man. Well, what I did there though is like, look, the thing is, I have my templates for Cubase, and so my environment is completely installed. So when you send me something, it first of all comes right to the computer that I'm recording at. So I download the file, then I import it into Cubase, and here's the kind of thing. I don't remember anymore if I played that song, the first song you sent me there, if I played it actually in one go or if I kind of played it part by part. Because if
Right.
it was a song in sections that were like clearly to understand, and obviously with your songs, you have complexity in it, but they're also played very well. So I know exactly what to do. So that's the good thing about you, which I give the compliment right back at you, and happily so, because I love it when people already come with a roadmap that is completely mapped out. You know exactly what to expect. Like where the hits and kicks are. You know what intention it is. It is more like a rock song. So you already have like a vision. And so for me, it's kind of completely um, a pleasure to just kind of sit basically in that car, close the door, and drive it. You know what I mean? So I can basically make myself at home there and have fun with it. And then you also give me time and the freedom to express myself. So that's why I was kind of able to kind of really get pretty quick into the zone, and then offer you something where I think like, hey, this could lock.
And to speak to another word on that, when these tracks come back, everybody has to realize we're not talking about like phoned in drum tracks. These are great drum tracks. These are album ready drum tracks, right? So, but you know what? It's funny you say that because when I do my demos, I really try to stay detailed about them and get them to the point where any end session musician is going to get
Yeah,
the point as to,
yeah,
okay, I know exactly what's going. Because in the end, I think it's better for everybody because I'm not going to be disappointed when I get something back and go, wait a second, that's not what I was thinking, right?
yeah, yeah.
But it's more like here's the roadmap like you said, and then you put your brilliance all over that, and then it
Right.
just comes together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it really is, it really is. That's yeah, how about any new solo stuff other than the McStine Minnemann stuff? You working on any of your own solo albums, new stuff there?
I always work on music, and how I usually do this. Well, like I said, my recent album, which is actually not that old yet, it just came out actually not even a year ago, uh, and it's called My Sister. It's a double album. I'm actually very very happy with that album. It features Alex Lifeson,
Yeah.
fellow Canadian.
Yes, yeah, yeah, man. And that My Sister album is an amazing album, too. That's another album I've listened to a bunch of times. I love it.
Oh,
It's great stuff.
thank you very much. Yeah,
And that's all available at Marco's website. You can buy that straight from your website, download,
yeah,
and probably CD Baby and all the other
yeah.
typical.
Yeah, so but that's the thing, that came out. So that has Alex Lifeson on it, then Doug Pinnick from King's X is on it, Randy McStine, Maya Wynn, she's a great singer, Aditi Singh Sharma from India, she's on it. I have plenty of guests on that album, and well, I play obviously the bulk there myself, and I'm the writer for that one. But I'm happy. It doesn't mean, that's one thing I really like to say, because yes, I on my solo albums I play most of the instruments and sing, but that doesn't mean that I'm opposed to kind of inviting guests. I love having guests here and there and collaborating with people. Whenever I hear like somebody's literally like voice or something on a song, then I will make that happen, or would love to invite people out. So that's kind of a cool thing, and especially kind of these days on quarantine, like a lot of great musos connect, doesn't it? But yeah, this is really happening right now. So, and also the way I write music, I kind of, I don't really specifically write for a certain format. I kind of just let it out, and then I see like what it can be transformed into, and what it is good for. So some go into my solo albums, some go for the Aristocrats, some go to the to the McStine Minnemann kind of thing. I just kind of evaluate it later. It's like, here's a bunch of songs. What could it be good for? How can I distribute it? So I'm thinking more commercial free. Like I just think like purely from the artistic value of the song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a great thing to have, those different outlets, right? That you can kind of satisfy all those different
Yeah.
musical whims that you sort of fall into, right?
I'm,
And
I'm,
I guess it
yeah. Okay.
I guess it doesn't hurt for the Aristocrat stuff. I guess it doesn't hurt knowing that Guthrie is going to be playing guitar on there and just kind of make it into something otherworldly,
Oh
right?
yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? Because when I write, even for the Aristocrats, I sometimes do too much. I sometimes do too much stuff because all these things I'm hearing inside of my head, like maybe some piano or some string arrangement or something like that. It's kind of it's kind of a thing because you want to bring it actually on the stage live with the Aristocrats, for example. But I'm still kind of tempted to do these things. For example, on the last album, you know what, songs like Spiritus Cactus, for example, have a lot of layers, but they still ended up on the album. But that's one of the songs that we cannot play live. We can play like songs when we all come together or something like that. That's one of, I'm talking about the songs that I wrote.
Yeah.
But some songs like Burial at Sea or Spiritus Cactus, we had no chance to really bring them out live as a trio. But they still ended up on the record because at some point you say like, well, we have like other records too. Why don't we? We're not shying away of having like a few tracks that are solely studio album cuts. You know.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but on the first Aristocrats
Yeah.
album, you guys went the polar opposite, and you were basically saying if we can't perform this
Yeah.
live, we're not doing it, right?
Absolutely. That was like, the thing for the first album, we just appeared fully as a trio. And then on the second, we started a bit of experimenting. On the third one, we already had like enough songs and enough kind of experience, with ourselves in petto that we kind of, basically just started doing these things and go like, well, screw that. Yeah, let's just be risky. Let's kind of do other things too. We have enough songs we can play live anyhow. So
Yeah.
you get adventurous, and why not, right? So yeah.
And that's true. The catalog you guys have now, it makes for a nice situation when you go to play live because you have such a deep catalog to be able to pick and choose from. Plus everybody's solo and stuff, right? Guthrie's got the erotic cake stuff. Brian
Yeah.
has a handful of solo albums as well, right?
That's
So,
right. Absolutely.
and you have, I think, 600 or 700 solo albums. Is that
About like 24 or 25 or something.
so your goal is to beat Frank Zappa? Is that what's happening? Is it?
Oh, Frank's great, right? Frank Zappa, that was great, man.
Oh man,
But
you know what a wonderful thing for all of us to have to constantly dig into. You can never get bored of it. You can never run out of listening, right?
I
It's
I
just
know there's always something
it's
to be.
so many different styles, so many different great musicians, and well, I guess some close friends of yours were parts of his band too, right? I mean, Mike Keneally and
Oh yeah,
who else? It was just a lot of others
I
folks, right?
played with a lot of people from Frank Zappa's band. Well, yeah, Steve Vai, Mike Keneally, Chad Wackerman, Robert Martin, Ike Will,
Terry Bozzio.
Terry Bozzio, then Ray White, Ike Willis, Eddie Jobson. I was in his band for a
Right.
while, and probably a bunch of more from his band. Yeah, I played with a bunch of Edman, Scott Tunis. We did like a recording actually also together. But I played with most of those people, live shows, recordings, and whatnot. Yeah, so I was pretty much Adrian Belew. I played with him.
Right. That's amazing, eh? That's
My
incredible.
gosh, that's right. I actually did play or am playing with a lot of the Zappa people. Yeah,
You have to sit back with Zappa and go, like, if it wasn't for him,
yeah,
would we have missed out not just on his music,
yeah.
but would all of the people you just named have had the popularity they had that would have allowed them to allow us to hear all their music?
It is basically, I think already kind of a few decades ago, a friend of mine said this kind of thing. I was like, yeah, Frank Zappa and Miles Davis were like almost like music schools for people. That was like
Yes.
almost colleges, where kind of a lot
Yeah.
of musicians kind of came from and were kind of allowed to have the debut and kind of, found spotlight. Yeah.
Absolutely, which is a really kind of almost a scary thought that if they didn't exist, what would the musical world have missed out on?
I know.
Even not in just their own catalogs, but in the sort of web of music that came from that,
I
right?
know it is crazy, really, to think, how sometimes, what door opens, for someone to be featured, right?
Absolutely, but we can just be thankful it all exists and is there. So,
The
so,
uni-
and I got to say, I got to hang with you guys this last summer on the Aristocrats tour. I think we went to the Toronto and the Ottawa show, and that was amazing. You guys just killed it. It was
Oh,
two amazing nights. What venues were we at?
I forgot. Was it?
Queen's Palace maybe, and
Yeah,
Bra-
I did play the venue in Toronto a few times already, but I forgot the venue, what it's called. And the other
I think it's Queen's Palace was
one
that
was
no,
Kings
or
Palace. What was the one?
I
What
think
was the one we played in Ottawa? Oh, that was a divey joint, man. The other one.
yes, yes. Yeah,
Gosh, that
the brass something,
Brad Monkey.
brass monkey. It was below a pet store.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
the funniest thing. There was like a Pet Value, and you went downstairs at Pet Value, and you were in this club.
Oh man, I remember that very well. That was like weird. I remember like we kind of drove in. We were like, we're playing here.
That was a great show,
It
though.
was
It was
fun.
packed.
It was fun. It was, yeah, it was packed. The people were a great crowd. It was good. Yeah.
It was like super low ceilings, if I remember right. Like just really kind of.
Oh,
But they kind of closed the bar down after and just let us hang out, and it was awesome. It was a great place. It was a great venue. But
yeah.
the one story that I love too, we've laughed about it a few times, is I don't know if you remember the time when I met you guys in Atlanta, I think it
Yes.
was, and we went out for whiskeys after Guthrie and yourself and myself, and Guthrie got a guitar lesson from a person on the patio. Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember
I'll let
that.
you tell. I'll let you tell us that story if you want to.
Oh,
But that was hilarious.
that was a funny story. Yeah, we were actually going out all together after our Atlanta show, and this guy, I mean, he sort of had it coming, hadn't he? I mean, he was a bit of a wise ass. He was sitting actually outside that whiskey bar where actually Jason, Guthrie, and myself, we kind of, went out and just had fun, an after show fun hang. And this guy was sitting outside and was playing his acoustic guitar and and was giving people lessons. He was kind of, oh, here, you want to hear how I play guitar? Here, check this out. Hey, how you do it like this and you do it like that. And then some people would go like, yeah, I can play a bit guitar too. And they would pick up the guitar. I was like, no, you hold your hand like this and that and that. And then Guthrie comes along, right? And he goes like, are you a guitar player? He goes like, nah, not really. Oh, you're a guitar player, aren't you? Here, look, I show you how this works, and blah blah blah. And then Guthrie just sits there and goes like, oh, okay, with his whiskey glass in his hand, and then the guy hands Guthrie the guitar, right? And goes like, here, you want to have it a go? You want to? And then Guthrie didn't want to. He goes like, nah, you got nothing. It's all good. I don't know. And he goes like, no, here, play a bit. Just play a bit. Blah blah blah. And then Guthrie takes the guitar and plays slowly one chord, then another chord, then another chord, and then the guy goes like, that's my kind of chord. Wow, that's my kind of. Oh, and then he starts upgrading it like slowly but steady, and then play and shreds that thing, and plays all these things. And the guy goes like, I knew you were a guitar player. Oh my, who are you? Where did you come from? Oh my God. And he goes like, oh, I gotta stop, man. I gotta sell my guitar.
That I thought if that had ever gotten videotaped and put on YouTube, that would have been the most viral, ridiculous. That would have 10 million views, right? Like
Yeah.
it couldn't have been more perfect. And I love the way Guthrie handled it. Like you said, he didn't just come out and like just blow his whole
Yeah.
deal, right? He just kind of like slowly eased into it. And the guy realized by the end of it he'd been had, but it was just that was a hilarious story, man. I never forget that
Yeah.
one. That was
It was priceless. It was so good.
that,
Yeah.
that was, man. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit too about some music gear
Yeah.
because I know a lot of people like to know what are you using, what, and I'm talking like everything because we've already talked about this multi-instrumentalist, obviously production,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So like what kind of stuff are you using? What do I know you're a DW drum artist.
Yeah.
That's what you use predominantly with the drums. But what else? What other things really kind of tickle your fancy as far as musical instrument stuff?
Well, I'm an enthusiast about gear, I gotta say. I mean, who isn't when you work, in this business, And well, yes, I am a DW guy. I have multiple, drum sets with different wood and kind of specifications. Um, so I'm a DW guy. I use Zildjian cymbals. I use ProMark sticks. My signature model. I have a few also signature cymbal models, which I'm very happy about. But then actually, what else am I using? As far as gear goes, for recording, I'm a Steinberg guy. So I work with Cubase. Furthermore, for guitars, oh yeah, I use Universal Audio like the UA stuff, Apollo.
Right.
I have the Apollo Twin Quad, and which is pretty much loaded with pretty much all of the UA plugins, which are amazing because you can just kind of make music when you're on the road and when you're in hotel rooms. You get like already pretty professional recordings that you can kind of use, right? Um, so that's what I'm using for that. Guitar wise, man, I have a lot of guitars. As you know, I think I have like 50 guitars at home or something. And I'd like to feature two of my dear friends who are guitar builders. One is literally just down the road here. His name is John Suhr. He has Suhr guitars. He built
Yeah.
me a fantastic guitar, which is downstairs in my studio right now, and I was able to design it, with the specs I like and the color specs and everything. And then actually recently, this guy built me a guitar here. Just that's what I'm playing here right now for recordings and checking it out. It's beautiful. It's Nick Huber. He's I don't know if you ever heard him. His name is Nick Huber.
No, I don't think I have. That's beautiful.
Beautiful guitar. And we actually came across Nick's work while we were actually touring now for our Aristocrats album for You Know What. And there's like one guitar place in McKinney, close to Dallas in Texas. And it's called the Guitar Sanctuary. I swear, like every time we play there, and we played there already kind of 3 or 4 times. Andy Timmons lives there as well. He's very close by. He always comes by.
Oh, nice.
Guitar friend of mine. We played together in a band.
Andy's amazing, amazing
It's
player.
amazing. We had a trio once with Gary Willis on bass years ago.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Andy
Oh,
always
that's
there at the
amazing.
Guitar Sanctuary. And man, these guys, they're like guitar nuts. I mean, we've never seen people picking so many winners, which is unreal. You have like every time you go there, this guy personally goes to the factories or to the shows, to trade shows and everything, and picks the finest guitar. So when you go to Guitar Sanctuary, it's like going into like a fine wine depot where like
It's like
a high class sommelier, as a
it's highly curated guitars, right?
oh, it's unreal. So every time I go there, promise I come back with one guitar. So, an amazing Strat, an amazing Telly. Last year I bought an amazing 12-string guitar, and Guthrie picked up this guitar by Nick Huber, who we haven't heard before about, right? So and it sounded just great. It felt just great. And Guthrie himself, he said like I shouldn't maybe say that, but no, he said something, man. Yeah, this guitar is probably my best sounding guitar in my collection. And so then I actually went out to a clinic tour last year after one of our Aristocrats legs. I stayed there and did it. And I was before our Aristocrats tour leg. I did a few clinics before we took off with our album thing, and then I kind of told actually our guy who drove me from a company called Geva who distributes actually DW drums, and we went to this one place, Music Productive in Ibbenbüren, which is like a huge music store. Well, actually the biggest music store in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and so they had a collection of those Huber guitars, and I was like, holy cow, these are the guitars that actually we found at the Guitar Sanctuary. And I checked out the guitars, and they were like just unreal, like so well built. The price was obviously pretty much up there too. It's not uncommon that you find a Huber guitar that costs $10,000.
Wow.
So we talked
Yeah,
about that,
that's
you
getting
know.
it's getting up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I talked with about with Nico, my driver by this time, and the guy from Geva, and I said like, man, do you see those guitars? They're unreal. Guthrie picked one up, and they're like insane. He goes like, oh, Nick Huber, and he goes, that's a dear friend of mine. I was like, you got to be kidding me. He goes like, yeah, let's connect you. He's a huge Aristocrats fan. He likes what you guys do, and he knows you as well. I was like, yes, please introduce me to this. So we started chatting, and they've built me a guitar, which I just showed you right now. Unreal instrument. And so the history, I guess, is he was actually a master builder at Paul Reed Smith Guitars at PRS.
Oh, wow.
And then basically, yeah, basically started his own company with his brother Clemens. So Nick and Clemens Huber. And they do a limited stash of guitars, each year. They keep it very small, so basically when you see like when you pick up the guitar, you have handwritten, what guitar it is and the number, and everything. It's really, really, really beautiful. What a
Oh,
piece,
nice.
what a piece of art. And yeah, so they really kind of put a lot of love in detail, into their instruments. And they're based in Germany, so that's interesting. But it's the same history like, John Suhr has, my dear friend, and his family, because he used to be a master builder actually at Fender.
That's right. That's great. Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and then he did like, his own guitars and amps, and well, we don't
Oh,
he doesn't need introduction, so
no, he does amazing work. Just incredible stuff. Yeah, it's. I was checking out some of the new stuff at NAMM this year. What was it? Mateus Asado signature model.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
guitar. He's doing some beautiful
Oh,
stuff. Yeah, that's amazing though. It's great to see small builders like that though that are just the attention to detail and the care that's going into it. And like you said, they're really works of art,
oh
right?
yeah.
And those are the types of things that
Yeah.
once you have it, it just becomes a part of you, right? And
Oh,
you can't ever imagine not having it anymore. It's
yeah, but I think it's like, what you just said is like a work of art, and especially when these people they put their names on them, so it's gonna be out there in the world. It's like doing an album. It's like or being a good chef or something as well. You kind of have to kind of step up for quality and kind of exactly know what you're doing, and kind of also then focus on having the right people with you in the crew. I remember like the story that with John, his wife told me that, and John confirmed that. When we hang, he's a super. Have you met John? He's a super sweet guy.
I have,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's,
yeah,
he's a nice guy, right? So
yeah.
when he started the company, and he said like he was. I mean, he was so not obsessed, but maybe he was. Yeah, but obviously you want to kind of do the perfect instrument. Exactly what you have in mind. And so when he trained his people, uh, he had like some guys building the guitars with him, and he gave him, and then he trusted him with the specs and everything. Goes like, okay, I'll show you how this works. I'll show you how I want it, and then bring me the guitar. And then those guys would bring him the guitar and build it, and he kind of was going like, no, there's like still here at the nut, there's like something over there. So he sent the guitar back, and then the second time it came back, and he goes like, there's still like something on here with the pickups and blah blah blah, and send it back. And it happened like 4 or 5 times, like that they brought the guitar back and he wasn't happy. And at the sixth time or something, he just took the guitar and smashed it on the floor in front of him, and gives the guitar back to them in pieces. And he goes like, "Here, build me a good guitar."
Oh man, so that's the definite school of hard knocks, is what it is.
Man, totally.
Oh wow. Well, hey, you know what? Maybe there's something to it because they're definitely churning out amazing stuff now. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely. I guess you gotta be that kind of guy if you want to run a
Yeah,
company and a tight ship, and you want to kind of, be a
but
boutique
it goes
builder. You gotta do this.
it goes totally against what you see John Suhr as, though. That's
Oh,
because
he's
that's not his personality at all.
No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. I love this man, and his whole family. We're like really dear friends. I gotta say, we always celebrate Christmas and New Year's even together, and even with
Oh,
my
yeah.
parents when they're here and stuff. No, we're really dear friends. He's Danish heritage, and I mean, he grew up here in New Jersey, in fact, but he's part Danish, and his wife Aura, she's actually from Colombia, so they're like a
Oh,
very multicultural family. So it's actually very 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 cool to see, and how the history how we've met. You know, me coming in from Germany, to California, meeting them, and then actually the funny thing was, that they built me this guitar. That's why I kind of got here, because Ed Yoon, who was our manager for the Aristocrats a while back, he was the one inviting me over after we started playing with Guthrie. We formed the Aristocrats, and he says like, "Hey, I worked like with John Suhr," and I said like, "Oh yeah, I know those guitars. They're pretty cool." He goes like, "Man, we think you're a great guitar player. I really think, that you should have maybe a guitar. Do you want us to build you a guitar? Come on over to the factory." I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And it turns out that John then, he says like, "Man, my son, Kevin, he's a huge fan of your work and what you do. He always tells me about you, and I looked you up and you're great, blah, blah, blah." So they invited me over, and I almost didn't go because I was just coming back from a 2-hour stay in Imperial Beach with my ex-girlfriend now, Shiloh from Canada. And we were,
Oh yes,
yeah, I
yes.
remember it. And we were staying at home, and I didn't even want to leave. I was like, "Oh, should I go there and whatnot?" And then because I said like, "Okay," and she goes like, "Yeah, I'll stay home. I'll wait until you're back." I was like, "Yeah, I'll just go there for 2 hours. I'll be back in 2 hours." So I drove down here, saw this lake, and it's like more remote. It's like right between San Diego, right between Los Angeles, and it has like this idyllic lake. Now I live here on this lake because it was like Elsinore. It was like remote enough to be kind of having your music studio and be sort of in nature, but it was close enough to the bigger cities to take airplanes internationally and stuff. So, and that's where John Stewart has his factory. So I went there, and then I kind of saw this, and I asked him the question. I said like, "Hey, by the way, how are the property prices here?" And he goes, "You know what? My wife is a real estate agent." So we found, all of a sudden, she found me the house. He built me a guitar. Then we became best friends, family friends.
That's
Thing is
awesome.
like, yeah. So
That's just
what a
fabulous.
strange story, right? And
Yeah, that's great though.
yeah,
It's wonderful, and and that's what it's all about, right? Those connections and those friendships. I mean,
oh,
it's really
I,
what it becomes about,
yeah,
right?
they still take care sometimes of my house when I'm on tour. They go like, "Hey, we ship some CDs if you have problems," and I do the same for them, obviously, with if they need help. So yeah, it's like you build like these bonds over the years. It's so cool. Sorry,
Absolutely,
quite
absolutely,
a
yeah.
detour, wasn't it? I hope nobody got bored.
Oh no, that's great. Those are the best stories. I think those are fabulous. I love hearing about those things. I mean, we've talked about those things in the past, but I'm sure everybody else would love to hear it. One thing I want to talk about before I forget.
Yeah.
So you have another really interesting. We were talking about gear and saying about Steinberg and how you're a Steinberg artist, and both of us use Cubase.
Yes.
Which is actually a Yamaha company, which is another company I deal with through the Line 6 and Yamaha guitars and whatnot. Actually, here's one of my favorite pieces. I don't know if I showed you this one before.
Oh my gosh, what is this?
That's a Yamaha 2200.
Lovely.
Made in Japan, actually,
Yeah.
but what a beautiful instrument. One of my favorites. It's basically like a 335 style guitar,
Right. Kind of this.
but anyways,
It's like the Cuber one that I just showed you, just a different
yeah,
color and design. Yeah, exactly.
right, absolutely, yeah.
Lovely.
But yeah, no, so like the Steinberg connection there. So you're involved in what I consider, and I think a lot of let's say songwriters and musicians with home studios might be very interested in this project, and I think this is a really exciting thing that I think you should share because this is coming out in a couple of weeks, I think you said, or I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, it's coming up very, very soon. I already actually there's already the beta version is already out here, so it's gonna be launched in a few weeks, and it's Groove Agent. It's called Groove Agent, and it's basically a sample library of my drum set and my drum sounds. So we did this not too long ago in Ojai at the Brotherin Studios, where also our latest Aristocrats album is recorded, because we were so pleased, excuse me, with the sound of the studio. And my dear old friend, known drummer Simon Phillips, who you probably all know,
Oh wow,
he
yeah,
helped
absolutely.
he helped engineering this. He was miking up the drum set and getting the sounds. He has his own Groove Agent library out there as well. So we did it same studio. There's also like different solo parts of Simon and I separately filmed, which you can watch. It's actually great. Simon and I go back a long time. There was also like this great engineer, Chris Ware is his name. He's actually from Germany, fantastic engineer, and Simon and him, and also myself and him, we have a history like over a long time, engineering experiences. And so, yeah, that was a great team. And Simon, obviously, it doesn't need any introduction. He's known for his not only for his great playing, but only for his great sounds.
Yeah.
Also for his great sounds and for engineering skills. So very very pleased, that this thing is coming out. I guess it will kind of hopefully stir some attention. I remember like one email came back from Steinberg. At some point they sent an email out to the other engineer, and he forwarded it. He says like, hey, we think this is one of the best sounding libraries we've ever heard. So I was like, wow, that's cool. Which obviously, uh, well, maybe I'd like to take partial credit for that. For kind of how I kind of tune my drums and the playing or whatnot. How it kind of how I hit them or something like that. But I really got to give credit to Simon and Chris. For being such incredible engineers. So
Well, you know what? I mean, all of those things are super massively important elements, right?
until
Because if you get a drummer who can't hit the drums the right way, Simon Phillips can't save that,
no, exactly.
or vice versa. You can have the best drummer in the world with a terrible engineer who doesn't. And so I think all of those elements have to come together
Yeah.
to end up with a brilliant
Yeah,
product,
I
right?
really, I really, really, really agree. So, especially kind of if you have a sample library, I mean, you can do this with your own productions if you have a vision, and you can kind of tweak things around a little bit. But like with the sample library, that's kind of some serious stuff. You got to make sure that the room is nice, the sounds are good, the microphones, the engineers, you're playing, how you're hitting it, and then it's
Yeah.
there. There's a whole there's a whole
So let me ask you something. I don't know if this is something you can even answer, or maybe it's top secret. I don't know. But so when you're doing a sample library like that, are you hitting it like how many different velocities are they asking you to hit at, and different places on the drum and whatnot? Does that go that deep and that intricate?
That's actually a very, very good question, actually. It's a very, very good question. Because you want to kind of, obviously have the sample library sounding as natural, as natural as your drum kit would sound and in the response as well. And, yes, you do find actually the center point of the snare. Then you hit like a little bit of like off center. And then you hit like, rims. Then you do the same thing for the toms. So you have like, obviously multiple velocity grades. You go up and sometimes zero point 0.5 or 1 dB steps. You know how that works.
Right.
And cymbals, those are the hardest ones because you have to kind of, let them die. You have to let them ring. So,
Oh, right.
right, there's a lot of release time.
Because one crash on a cymbal lasts a long time,
It
right?
lasts for a while, right? And
Wow.
hi-hats, how you open them a little bit, you open them a little more. All these kind of things are really, really important. I not to mention how many spots there are on the right cymbal that you can hit.
So that's a real testament to the drummer doing the work, though, because I mean, your control would have to be immaculate. Your precision would have to be immaculate.
I tell you what, I did a few of those sample libraries, and let's put it that way. It's good to have like a glass of whiskey on the side sometimes, to kind of have like a little bit of fun and tell maybe some jokes, with Simon or something, because that can get old pretty fast if you're sitting there for each instrument and then kind of doing the DB steps and stuff like that. It can be if you're hanging with the wrong guys in the wrong environment, that can be torture. But if
Absolutely.
everything's sounding good and people know what they're doing and you can just kind of keep going, then yeah, you yeah, you
Yeah.
get there somewhere. But that
I guess with too many whiskeys, everything just ends up in the higher dB register then.
or not at all because you're dropping sticks or you
Or not. Yeah. So that could be interesting too, though. Hey, you guys should do volume two, the drunk sessions.
oh,
That would be an
sessions,
excellent.
the sloppy sessions.
The sloppy sessions. We won't tell you why they were sloppy. They were just sloppy. No, that's exciting. I'm really excited to take a listen to those. I think that's going to be a really successful project. And Groove Agent is a great product to begin
Yeah,
with, right? I mean, it's
yeah. It is.
it's really amazing. It's really amazing the times that we live in now, right? Because I mean, as far as laying down a drum track at home, gone are the days of like the mechanical. So you're literally loading in, you know, files played by yourself, played by other incredible drummers that have feel, that have, and then the ability to edit those. That, well, I don't want that snare hit there. I want it over here on the upbeat instead of the downbeat.
Absolutely.
And it's still kind of like it doesn't take away from your feel. It's just changed your groove now a little bit, right? And just incredible stuff.
It is amazing what you can do, but also, man, I mean, just thinking about, like, the decade we live in right now, the internet connections are so good that you can kind of stream a lot of things, that you're immediately connected to, like, Steinberg support, or to any support of any kind of thing, where you can kind of have immediate access and help, or can kind of save a program or save a whole session. Gosh, that's actually amazing, especially in times that we live in right now, isn't it? I mean,
Absolutely.
imagine, like, this whole situation that we're in would have happened in 1994. It would have been a disaster, having no gigs, studios would be closed, and all this kind of stuff. I don't even want to think
Yeah.
about it. But so this is really a blessing that we actually can do stuff like this, like also
Yeah.
online talk, like talking to with.
And I think this type of thing
Yeah,
is more important now than ever because it sort of gives us a sense of togetherness,
yeah,
right? That we are still all together. We're out there and we're still doing our stuff, and just knowing that is, kind of gets us through the day
yeah.
and whatnot. I know we've spoken so much over the years about different software, and I'll email you and I'm like, hey, like Isotope, here, check out this Isotope stuff, and check out this,
I,
the U Audio stuff. I'm not using the U Audio stuff anymore, but I know you do. And let me ask you that: what are you using for guitars when you're recording direct guitars at home?
the thing is, I have actually a bunch of gear. I have a modified JCM 800, which is sitting right in front of me, which is, I don't know who the guy was who modified it years ago. That was years ago. It was like one of those famous guys who modified these amps, the JCM 800s, for, like, metal bands, and for, you know, uh,
Like Lee Jackson or something like that, or
yeah, I forgot who it was, because I got the hookup actually from my former studio there I was working at in Germany, and they hooked me up with that guy, and he just worked magically on the tubes, and some magic into the tubes, which is great. Well, what else I have? I have, like, a Badger from John Suhr. He
yeah, great amp.
cabinet, which I rarely use, but honestly, this is kind of, I'm so sad to admit that, but but it's actually, the Apollo UA amps. Oh my gosh, and there's even John Sour's models there in there, and he likes them. He totally approves them. He goes like, holy shit, they sound really good. Um,
Yeah.
and the Fox 2, the Train, fantastic amp. And a lot of times I work with this thing that a guy called Thomas Kemper gave to me, a Kemper amp.
Ah,
I
yes,
love, I
yes.
love it. It's so easy to work with that thing. And Guthrie gave me the profiles of Michael Britt, who's, like, this the session player, and he
Yeah.
was great, no bullshit, as he sort of kind of, I guess, called advertising, because, like, here, if you want the straight thing, that's it from his
Yeah.
sessions. You don't even need to mess with the EQ big time. You can kind of, get, like, a lot of settings, modify, like, them to your liking a little bit, how you would like to hear it. But wow, is that comfortable, really? But
Yeah.
also, I gotta. So that's what I'm using here. But I'm also very curious, because when we go offline, or we can do this online too. I would obviously like to ask you about, what you do with the Helix, because I heard actually your presets and how you work on your guitar sounds, and they're magnificent. They're just great.
Oh,
Every time you send me something, I go like, man, oh man, I need to connect more with Jason about these things, and I am, obviously. So yeah.
did I not? I got you set up with the Helix software though. Did you
Did
did you try that much
Yes,
or?
I did. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's really.
Yeah.
But you have, like, all,
You
like,
know,
a physical box out there. What's how does it look like? It looks pretty cool.
I mean, I have it right here at my feet. There's the full blown Helix
Yeah,
floor, and then there's the smaller Stomp, and then there's this new one I was showing you, which is the Pod Go,
yeah,
and they're all the same engine. They all have the same sounds to them, right? So it's all, and then the Helix native software that you have,
yeah,
it's all the same sounds, right? And so I was a Kemper user for, well, I think you remember when we were doing a lot of albums together. I was using Kemper, and I did that for about 3 years. And I mean, I have not a negative bad thing to say about that. An amazing unit. And again, it's as good as the profiles are, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
If you get a bad profile, it's not going to sound good. But if you get a great profile, it's going to sound amazing. And much like the Helix, I mean, you can dial it in to sound bad, or you can dial it in to sound good.
yeah,
But yeah, I like for myself for the Helix, I like the workflow aspect of it. I use it like I'm in the studio. You can move microphones back, you can pick speaker cabinets, you can, and very kind of quickly, if you have sort of the intuition of knowing what you like, you can bang, 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 everything's set up,
yeah, yeah.
and you can tweak it however you need very quickly. So, but I mean, what a time to live in, right? Look at the stuff we have at our disposal. It's
Unreal. Yeah.
you can have professional drum tracks to professional bass and horn sections right in your computer, and then lay your tracks beside you,
I know.
and you're going,
Yeah.
you know,
It's great, right? Doing those productions, like just, at the tip of your finger, somehow, and you can that those are great times. People would have to wait to book studio time and then go into the studio and then kind of, come up with something, sometimes quickly, to kind of make it happen.
absolutely.
And then you,
I do have to say though, I use Superior Drummer 3 a lot when I'm composing,
yeah.
or if I'm just doing something that's not an album thing, just a demo. And so, I have a big library of grooves played by real drummers and whatnot. And you can sit there and you can pull in what you need and alter it to what you need for your particular song. And it's got a good feel to it. But I gotta say, every time I take that and then send it to you, and I think, wow, this is something pretty cool, and you send me your track back,
Oh.
there's nothing like a real drummer
Oh.
playing to that song, especially when it's yourself. I mean,
Oh.
every time I get it back, I go, okay,
Oh.
this is it. And and then it just excites me again to get back into that song and then raise it even more by,
That's
adding
great.
whatever
That's
else to it.
great. Thank you. That's a good thing that you cannot replace humans, right? That's one of those
No.
things. I mean, you can take it a step further. Vocals. You know, you can do this with drums, maybe with bass. A little bit. I mean, drums already a little bit less, and guitar and
Oh, I
vocals.
think we're frozen here. Hopefully, oh, I think we're reconnecting here. Hang on a second.
Yeah, we're reconnecting. We're reconnecting. Here we
We're
are.
recon.
Are you on? Can you see me?
There we go. We're good. We're back. I don't know if I'm back there though or not, but yeah, we got you
Can you?
back.
Yeah, I can't see you, but maybe you can see me.
Okay, let me see if I can fix that. There we go.
All right, back on
There
track.
we are. Alrighty. So sorry, I think we missed the last like maybe 15, 20 seconds of what you were saying, but
Yeah, I was just saying about like, well, with the programming kind of stuff, you can program bass guitars, you can program drums, maybe already be a little bit of less than bass guitars, but it gets really difficult if you want to program a guitar or a voice.
yes.
It's almost
Yes.
impossible, really.
Yep. There's almost too many inflections, too many
Yeah.
possibilities, right? Slides and micro bends
Oh,
and
yeah.
whatnot, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, it gets it does. But I mean, even just to get, even just for the writing aspect of it, it's just what a time to live in. I don't think a day goes by. I've been using this stuff for years, but a day doesn't go by where I finish a day of doing some composing and this and that, where I don't kind of feel somewhat thankful
Yeah.
that we have these tools. Where I'll find myself driving sometimes, going, "Wow, like it's just incredible what we can do now." And then collaboration, right?
Yeah.
I can do that, and I can send it to you in 15 seconds or
Yeah.
in 2 minutes.
Yeah. It's unreal.
You know,
It's unreal.
and it's really a great time to live. I want to just go over to the chat. We've kind of been ignoring everybody just to sort of see who's here
Yeah.
and say hi. Matt Krill, a viewer that is around quite often. Hi, Matt. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Dave Putz, Andrew Benjamin. You guys are all saying it was sound great. This is way back. Paul Terrio, how you doing? I'm just trying to see if there's any questions here. Paul says it was great to meet you in Edmonton, Marco. You completely went out of your way to chat and take pics while the bus was waiting. Much respect.
Oh,
I got to tell you something. That you know what? I think you excel at that type of thing, man. I honestly do. I love watching. Anytime I've had, it's been quite a few times, whether it was Joe Satriani or the Aristocrats, that you've kindly invited me out to the show and we've got to hang. And I always love watching you interact with everybody and how at home you make everybody feel. Friends that I've brought out to shows, and you just like, a friend of mine that came out this last summer, he was so nervous. He's like, because he just loves your stuff. And he's like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna. And I'm like, I said to him, I said, you have nothing to be nervous about. Like, Marco is the most down to earth, kind fellow that's going to make you feel. You'll feel like you've known him forever after 3.5 minutes of talking to him. So I do have to say that I've always been impressed with how you do that, man. It's really a great quality, I think. But
always great to
Uh,
people, that's the thing, you know. So if there's a good energy, you know, then hey, you know, why not sharing it, you know?
uh, well, no good comes from doing it any other way, right? So, Yvonne Matteau, hello, my friend from the Petit Oiseau, Quebec City.
Oh
Stay
yeah,
safe, Marco. So
yes. Hey, Yvon, ça va?
that's awesome. Uh, Alex Guitar from Austria. Um, Tony Royer, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, says, I love the first track program off the
Thank,
McStine Minnemann album.
thank,
Looking forward to receiving the rest of it. That's awesome. And Yvonne says, My Sister, excellent album by Marco with excellent musicians.
thank you.
We have a hello from Chandler, Arizona. Paul Terrio again. Jason is an amazing player. Thank you so much, Paul. And Paul Terrio is an excellent player too. I've seen many videos Paul's done. He's a great. My buddy Jay Basmatic, Jason Henry, is the bass player who played on my last album that we hung out with after the show in
We
Toronto.
had,
So thanks
multiple,
for coming by, Jay.
we,
That's awesome,
we had
buddy.
multiple beers and whiskeys together.
Yes, yeah, I think so. From what I remember, yeah. James Coleman, by far my favorite drummer of all time. I think he's talking to you.
Is he talking to me?
I think he's talking to you. I don't think he's
I'm
talking
to
to.
asking like who, who he
Oh, thank you so much. Even though I don't play drums, but that's no, that's great. Thank you, James. And Paul Terrio says, "I'm new to Cubase and Superior Drummer 3. What a learning curve." That's a good point. You know, I think sometimes you and I might take that for granted. I've been on Cubase since version 1.
Yeah.
I would imagine you probably are very much the
Yeah,
same.
I was actually at first using Cubase SX, and that was actually
Ah,
like literally MIDI wise. When I wrote my first album, it's like just as a MIDI kind of program because it ran really stable and had like just this great quantization kind of it had like almost like a groove to it. It was really cool. And well,
yeah.
Cubase always has that kind of thing. Very solid click track and everything runs great. Um, I used to be a Logic guy for a while. I think, from the early 2000s up until 2004, and then I reverted back to Cubase. And it was, yeah, I don't know. It was like basically by that time not really a decision that was just made because I hated one program, or found the other one kind of superior or something, but because I was tied in this one music studio where everybody was on the same platforms. And as soon as one computer would change, we would kind of upgrade the other computers or would kind of change too. But at some point, there was a thing where Cubase was really getting good with the Apogee engine they had and all kinds of it sounded just fantastic, and there was a time where the mixes sounded just the best. That was like, though, I'm talking about 2004 and stuff like that. Meanwhile, look, message to the people out there, something like that, if you have Pro Tools or Logic or Cubase, if you're happy with the program, and you can work in it and do it.
Yeah.
There's
I think the thing I could say to that is it's all about finding your own personal workflow,
yeah.
right? And you know what? I bet you anything, you and I could sit on Cubase, and if you watched me work, you'd probably go, "Why do you do that?" And I would watch you and go, "Why do you do that?" Because
Yeah,
it's just the way we do things.
exactly.
And so, like for Paul, that's a great point, Paul. Like it is a learning curve, but I think it's important to realize there's way more features in that program than any one of us will ever use. Ignore the stuff you don't want,
Yeah.
focus on the stuff you need, learn that well, and just start making music. Don't get bogged down in the technology, just make music.
Yeah.
And figure out the 5 or 6 things that you really need,
Yeah.
and then go with it. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but
I think, the beauty, especially in Cubase, what I really always enjoyed, Cubase is a very musical program. So what you can do with it, you can actually literally use it almost as a musical instrument. There are like, these kind of things, when you go straight into the tracks and you can transpose the tracks real time. You can do like
yeah,
literally kind of do cool effects with this kind of stuff by transposing it and kind of, getting, the volume curves, like just it's just like playing an instrument almost. It's just like, yeah, you're right. Actually, at the touch of your finger, you can conduct the program and work with it. That is what always impressed me with Cubase, and that's
yeah,
why I kind of never experimented with anything else. I know there's good things. I have this Luna thing, since I'm using the Apollo, they kind of gave me Luna.
right.
It's probably very good. I might actually look into this as well. Started working with it a little bit, just for fun, but look, with Cubase, I already have, I have their interfaces that kind of lock very well together with it. I have like all the presets, with it. I made templates. It's a lot of work that
Yeah.
goes into there, and then you
Absolutely.
Start that shit over again.
Yeah. And again, it's right. You'd have to start your whole workflow over, and that's almost a nightmare because I don't know about you, but when you're working, I'm the same way. Everything is instinctive. I'm hitting buttons without even thinking about it because
Well, and then think about all your old projects, like, that you have.
right.
When you want to open them, and then you have to, oh, that sounds like a
No.
nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think yeah, it's yeah. Anyways, it's I know, but I think once you get past that learning curve though, and you get a workflow going, it's really not as scary as a lot of people think it is.
It really isn't. I mean, like as I said, the one thing is really my drum templates, because that's the one thing. So if you kind of get used to this whole thing, Cubase has like, this great action where you can kind of create group folders, this kind of stuff. And so
Yes,
like
absolutely.
all the drum tracks inside the group folder, you can activate it at one touch. My God, it's so wonderful, you to kind of use it, and then you kind of get your templates together, different templates, and you get better and better at it, And sometimes you kind of tweak a little bit on that kind of thing, or you got like a new plugin that does this or that, and then I could see that in my workflow that over the years my templates are literally getting better and better. Well, sometimes different or
Yes,
different directions as well. This is worth gold, isn't it? You can
absolutely.
save all these things and just kind of yeah.
When they I can't remember which version it was, but when they brought in the ability to do the group folders and then lump them together and edit them,
Yeah.
like for drum tracks, like what a when you would send me, you send what 16
Six, right.
mics or whatever,
Mhm.
all of a sudden you lump them together, and if I want to say I want that fill over here or something, if I want, you just grab it and move it, boop 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 boop,
Yeah. Cool.
and it's so effortless. It was just like,
Yeah.
oh,
Agreed.
you know.
It's a big time saver.
Yeah, absolutely. That was amazing. So, oh, Taylor, thank you so much for the super chat. That is really kind of you. Scott Ruse says, do these sample libraries work in various samplers or just Superior Drummer? Okay, so Marco's particular library we're talking about is only going to work, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's only for Groove Agent.
I think it is only for Groove Agent. Yeah.
Right. So each drum program, like whether you're talking about BFD or Superior Drummer, they sell their own
Yeah.
libraries. So like I'll use Superior Drummer and I can get a library that is, let's say George Massenburg did it in whatever studio, and that's that library. And then I can get Rooms of Hansa, and then I can get the Rock Foundry, which is Bob Rock.
Yeah.
So I can't load that into Groove Agent. So if you're using Steinberg's Groove Agent, which is a drum sampler, basically a drum machine program,
Yeah.
you could load Marco's upcoming version into that. But it's not going to be the type of thing where you can say, oh, I'll get Superior Drummer and I'll grab Marco's thing and put it over
No,
here.
I don't think it works that way. Yeah.
I don't think it would work that way. So we have a hi from Denton, Texas. Somebody says they got their Pod Go. That's awesome. Yeah, great little unit. Alex Guitar says, Marco, would you talk a little more about your writing progress? So I guess your process for writing music. That could be a very deep question, or
Yeah, we can do this pretty quickly, actually. No, well, pretty quickly. I do want to go into detail, obviously. So
yeah,
let me talk about this a little bit. So usually when I kind of write, these things sometimes just fall from the sky. That's how I always say that. I don't sit there and go like, cool, I want to do a song that has this message and will sound like that. What I do is like I kind of, most of the time I have my guitar in my hand, and then I kind of, just fiddle about a little bit there, and kind of see what cool riffs come along, or if there's like, a thing that sort of inspires me. And all of a sudden when I have that thing going, I think, oh shit, okay, great. And then I kind of, maybe save it on my voice memo and then go upstairs to my software and then I record it. And most of the time when I play, I already have a vocal melody in my head, and then I kind of think like, this could fit over this. And then I just mumble some words to see what kind of words would fit. And then I tailor a story around it. And then I kind of take it from there. But also, in other times, I sometimes sit here on the piano and kind of, or with the piano sound, and we'll kind of, play something, and get inspired by that. And sometimes it is a style question, or drums, same thing. So, sometimes I just sit down and kind of, have a cool groove, like, hey, this sounds actually kind of cool. this bass line would fit on top, and then I write it from there. It's like, very interesting inspiration. Sometimes even from the bass. I just wrote a song actually that was actually inspired just by a bass line, because bass line is very focused. If you listen to a lot of the early Police stuff,
Yes.
that's all like, bass driven. A lot of bass driven. When you sing the song, you basically hum the bass lines. Bum ba dum, bum ba dum, walking on the moon,
Yeah.
right? That's a bass line. So obviously Sting is capable of also writing from the guitar, as you would see from his solo albums or the later Police stuff. But it depends, I guess, what instrument inspired you this to write the song. Piano, very open layers. Guitars, very chord driven. Bass, very focused on the main melody, which becomes like the hook then by that, and to that degree. But sometimes I do have these kind of moments where somebody asks me to write something for someone. So, for example, when we kind of write for the Aristocrats, then yes, even though I kind of, write letting things fall from the sky, like I always say, but I also kind of, just, think about what would the others like. If I write a song for Guthrie and Brian, what would bring them joy? How can I impress them? I mean, in a musical sense, what makes them tick? Would that be fun for them to kind of join in? So yeah, so then I kind of get to work and kind of, think about what albums did they play for me? What are they listening to? How are they playing live? And so that becomes a different approach. So there are many beautiful approaches of writing a song, but most of it, all is like that you are getting inspired, from it, that you find actually a riff or something that makes you want to explore, and that's pretty much, for me, the key of writing, yeah, I try to kind of, pack all this information within
Yeah.
into 5 minutes, but
I think but I think you nailed it, and that's great. That's a great explanation. For myself, honestly, like a lot of times, I start off with trying to come up with a cool drum groove,
yeah,
and then I'll grab my guitar and try to get inspired by the drum groove, which is kind of
yeah,
always been. I'm not going to say everything I've ever written is like that, but a lot of times for me, it is that drum groove, and then kind of going from there, and then that allows me to kind of
yeah.
to go do something else with it. But yeah, no, that's a great answer for it, I think. What else do we have here? Well, Alex also says you said something about templates in Cubase, but I think we've already kind of covered that.
Yeah.
Um, Jay Drum Guy says Cubase is a great platform. Marco's projects always sound awesome, and I definitely agree with that. Hey Jason, just came across your channel a few days ago because of the SRV Helix sounds. Thanks for that, liking your live chat. Love Marco's sounds, though. Awesome, thank you so much. Our good friend Carlo, who's come out to a couple shows with me from Toronto, Carlo Dorenzi. Carlo's here. So he says, great show. Respect for both of you as amazing musicians and incredible people. I think the amazing show in Toronto was at Lee's Palace. That's what it was. I think I said
Oh,
Queen's Palace. What was that? I'm thinking Queen Street and
right.
Lee's. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that doesn't sound familiar, right? Yeah.
Lee's.
You know what it is? Isn't there like, this one, isn't there like this Queen, like a theater or something? What was that called? Because I played in that one too with like, um,
There's a there's some stuff down on Queen Street in Toronto. I think Lee's Palace on Bathurst.
that.
I don't know. That's what was messing me up. Anyways, it was somewhere in Toronto. That's all that matters. What does
Yeah.
matter is there was an Irish pub we went to after. That really is all that mattered.
Exactly. Absolutely that,
And I
yeah.
think it was only about 3 steps away, so that was even better.
You just fall out from the venue into the next thing, and then
That's until they kicked us out of that. But Alex Guitar says, "Thank you so much, Marco and Jason, for the answer." Oh, hey, that's our pleasure, I'm sure. Scott says sometimes learning a new technique will inspire writing. Oh, absolutely. Figuring
yeah,
out a new way to execute something on the instrument absolutely can do that too. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of the chat. I think we've covered every word like an hour and 13 minutes, which I think I took more of your time than I promised. So you can
It's all good.
you can
It was
scream at me off the air here, and
Yeah, as soon as we signed off, that's when I'm gonna give you a hard time.
that's it. How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah,
No, man. You know
like,
what? I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging out. We had a really good turnout today, and a big, super, huge thank you to Marco, buddy. Thank you so much for doing this. This is
thank you.
something I've wanted to do with you for a while, and this just seemed like the perfect time. New album. So remember, everybody, go check out McStine Minnemann album. Pre-order started 2 days ago.
Yeah, on May 1st, so
Yeah.
it's ongoing. It's ongoing, yeah.
So the links are all in the description for this video. Click on them. and show your support for the guys. It's a great album. I listened to it this morning. It's awesome. I mean, it has something for everybody. That's what I love about it. If you want that catchy hook that you're gonna have stuck in your head, it's there. But if you want that proggy, cool, Zappa-esque thing, it's there. There's, like you said, there's some punk rock elements. It's got something for everybody. I think this is a really important album that everybody should go grab and support the project. It's awesome. But I can't thank you enough, buddy. I really appreciate it. It's been too long since we've got to hang out, and I think this was the second best thing to being able to have some whiskeys together.
Oh man, yeah, I tell you what, when this whole thing is over that's going around now, we gotta hang soon, actually, physically again, and then cheer.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll hold you to it. So we're going to
Yeah.
sign off. I'm going to end the stream, but I'll say bye to you off the air once that's over, and we can chat for a few minutes. But thank you guys all so much. Thanks for the people who sent the super chats and whatnot. I really appreciate you guys all showing up. And like I said, thank you again to Marco. So thank you guys so much, and I'll be back soon doing some more stuff. So ciao,
Excellent.
ciao
Thank
for
you,
now.
Jason. And everyone else, thank you, guys.